Alright, folks, let's get this show on the road. I want to talk a little bit about the presidential debates that have just wrapped up. I'm using my phone as a remote control for the camera. That's actually working. That's nice. So we had two presidential debates, one vice presidential debate, and that weird town hall thing instead of the second debate because the Biden team tried to capitalize on Trump getting coronavirus and didn't want to be in the same room with him, although making it safe was perfectly straightforward. But nevertheless, they used the opportunity. It's politics. Shit happens. Yeah, I watched all the relevant debates, town halls, all that sort of stuff. I'm not hiding who I'm going to vote for. I'm going to vote for Biden. Just joking. I'm going to vote for Trump. I just wanted to imagine a few people who normally watch my videos falling out of the chair when I said I'm going to vote for Biden. I'm not going to vote for the jackass. I'm going to vote for our jackass, right? So between the two jackasses, I prefer the one that actually agrees or at least pushes some of the things that are important to me. I don't vote for personalities. I vote for the issues. And on any issue that I find even marginally important, the platform of the Democratic Party to me is absolutely untenable. That's basically how I vote. That having been said, what I want to talk about a little bit is the weird standards in this year's presidential debates, and talk a little bit about Hunter Biden's laptop. So you know what? Let's start with Hunter Biden. Somehow, Hunter Biden's laptop seems to be an unverified story. Okay. Somehow people seem to be saying, "Oh, Joe Biden has nothing to do with Hunter Biden's business dealings and all that sort of stuff." So Joe Biden has nothing to do with his crack addict son who got kicked out of the Navy for being on cocaine, who has had an affair with the widow of his brother who died of brain cancer. And because his brother Bo died from brain cancer, we're apparently not allowed to say anything about him. But other than not having been caught on coke, I'm not convinced there's any practical difference in terms of corruption between Hunter and Bo. But nevertheless, Bo's not in the picture anymore. So Hunter Biden, the same Hunter Biden, who apparently turned in his laptop, didn't pick it up, had a bunch of secret stuff on it, what kind of drugs he was strung out on, apparently we're not allowed to talk about that. So I'm listening to this whole hoopla, and I'm thinking back to a book I read, well, listened on Audible, but I'm probably going to buy it on Kindle and reread it, that I listened to. I'm going to put a link, it's going to be an Amazon affiliate link, to Peter Schweitzer's book called Secret Empires, and that came out. It was a #1 New York bestseller, so few people must have read it, right? And it talks what the book talks about. When the hell did it come out? It doesn't matter. I think I listened to it a year or two ago. A year. The book talks about how the families of politicians make a ton of money when politicians get into the office. We have fairly strict rules about direct corruption by politicians. And they've all figured out how to work around this, and this works on both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats. The book specifically talks about the Biden family, talks a little bit about Trump family, talks about the Clintons, talks about the Obamas, and all the large-scale corruption that's been happening there. Because what happens is, and please, I'll put a link, please read the book. what happens is that all these various laws and rules and limitations we have on how politicians are supposed to behave in terms of their financial dealings, they do not extend to adult children, and they do not extend to nephews, adopted children, stepbrothers, that kind of stuff, right? But going after the family is not okay unless the politician in question is a Republican, then it's okay. But if it's a Democrat politician going after the family, oh my God, the sky's falling. Well, Peter Schweitzer, who's done all sorts of interesting investigative things over the years, talked about Clintons and others, wrote this book called Secret Empires, where he talks about all the various Chinese dealings, Chinese investors, how a VC firm created by sons and nephews of politicians has been the primary vehicle for the Chinese Communist Party's money to get into U.S. real estate and all this sort of stuff. I'm not going to rehash the book. This is not the book review. I'll put a link. Read the book. The cheapest, I think, I'm looking at it on Amazon right now. The Kindle version is $4. Get that if you like the book. I'm probably going to buy the hardcover. I kind of enjoyed the book. It's $16. Yeah, not too bad. I do own the audiobook version. This came out a little while back. How is all this Hunter Biden family corruption any sort of a news? I mean, this was #1 New York Times bestseller. This should not be new information. All of the journalists, politicians, etc. should have seen this. A lot of people have read it. Why is everybody acting so surprised that the Biden family is corrupt to the core? Now, to be clear, virtually all politicians are corrupt in some way, shape, or form. And we cannot really get that out of politics. Politics is a dirty business. Some amount of corruption is going to exist. We can't get out of it. At least I don't see a way to get out of it. However, where I do draw the line is when this corruption goes international. If they do some low-level local corruption within the US, I don't like it, but I'll live with it. It's not a perfect system. A perfect system doesn't exist. There's no such thing as completely not corrupted government officials. And compared to what I've seen in the Soviet Union when I was growing up, the basic standard corruption of American politicians is child's play. Okay? But where I do draw the line, when their corruption goes to Ukraine, Hunter Biden with Burisma, Russia, China, when foreign entities that are unfriendly to the United States are using these adult children, nephews, cousins, stepbrothers, and all that of American politicians to gain influence and to get into the US economy, there I kind of draw the line. That is a problem. That should not be happening. Both Republicans and Democrats have done this, but from what I've seen, what the Democrats have done has been more egregious and more shameless. We live in a world of functioning new crime families, with the biggest ones being the Clintons and Obamas and the Kerrys and apparently the Bidens. Okay, though there are fewer Bidens, I think. It's a kind of a sad topic, but anyhow, read the book. Let me know what you think. Moving on to the debates for a minute. So we had 2 debates. First one was moderated by Chris Wallace, and another latest one a couple of days ago was by Kristen Welker. And it's really interesting. So Chris Wallace did such a horrible job, right, as James Woods, let me pull this up. James Woods on the debate. I don't want to misspeak this, so I'm going to pull this up. Okay. There we go. So James Woods had the best summary of the first debate. He said, President Trump crushed his opponent Chris Wallace head-to-head in the debate. There was also another fellow wandering around muttering to himself. Chris Wallace was so openly anti-Trump when he was moderating the first debate that he set the bar very low for the third debate. I did not enjoy the first debate very much. I don't think President Trump did terribly well. Honestly, all he had to do was let Biden speak and he'd collapse. So there was a huge opportunity lost there. But in a third debate, Trump behaved in a much more presidential manner. It went much more smoothly, and it all got applauded, and everybody was happy that Kristen Wilker, whatever her name was, did Kristen Welker, did such a good job moderating this. And I'm looking at this going like, okay, it's the same questions that I've been trying to get Trump on all the time. Biden, she does not challenge Biden on damn near anything, with a couple of very minor exceptions. It is comparatively civil, which is nice. I like that. But in terms of the questions are clearly set up to make Trump look bad or not as good as he should. And the best example of this is that, so at this stage, we just had 3 Arab Muslim countries normalize their relations with Israel. Did that come up? Did foreign policy come up other than the Russia business, where they keep on trying to get Trump on some imaginary collusion with Russia? What did Middle East come up at all? We've got Qatar, United Arab Emirates, and now Sudan at peace officially with Israel, and very likely multiple other Arabic countries are going to follow suit shortly, possibly including Saudi Arabia. How is that not, it's ridiculous, how is that not featured in a presidential debate? You can argue that foreign policy is where the president can actually do more than in domestic policy. We keep on thinking that the president is this all-powerful figure that will just cardinally change America. Well, president by itself cannot do that. The Congress, the Senate, the House of Representatives, they're kind of supposed, they create laws, right? President can do a little bit using executive orders, but not that much. And Trump has not been terribly aggressive with executive orders, not compared to Obama. All right, Obama was a shit president and much more authoritarian than Trump. Obama is just a good politician, so he was exceptionally good in concealing what he's trying to do. Trump just says stuff and does stuff. Probably one of the reasons why the establishment hates Trump so much. But anyhow, getting back to the debates. So Kristen Welker has been universally lauded for how well she did in the debate, by being basically just as anti-Trump as Chris Wallace, but nicer about this. So we're confusing niceness with fairness or competence, right? And of the 3, she was reasonably nice about it. And President Trump has correctly was nice to her, right? He said, thank you for being a good moderator. But if you look at the questions she asked, at the topics she introduced, she was not a good moderator. She was basically less shitty than Chris Wallace. How is that the standard for presidential debates? It's completely nuts. Anyhow, I'm going to wrap up with this thought. The election is in a few days. All the polls suggest that we're going to have, that Biden is going to win, and we're going to have a Harris presidency. I do not know if I trust the polls or not, but I live in a left-leaning state, New Mexico. So I know a good number of people who will vote for Trump and a good number of people who will vote for Biden. Every fiber of my being hopes that Trump is going to pull this out, because the country is in a precarious position, and Harris presidency right now would be spectacularly harmful. I don't think it's going to be, long term, I don't think it's going to be as much of the end of the world as people say it is. But given that the economy has been really hit very hard by coronavirus, and given that Biden is claiming that he's going to lock down the whole country for another 4 years until, I don't know, pigs start flying, cows come home, I don't know. From a standpoint of the economy and the job market, I think that Biden election and Harris presidency, no, not Biden presidency, Biden is basically a placeholder over there, would be disastrous. Okay. It's remarkable how little the political establishment is requiring from Biden in terms of being fit for presidency. Notice, before the third debate, he was basically hiding for a few days, I don't know, recuperating, getting pumped with drugs, I don't know what happens there. The only thing that Biden had to do during the debates was not fall down and collapse. And he didn't do that, right? But since when is that sufficient to win a presidential election? Stay upright. If that's a requirement, when I talk to a camera, I have a standing desk. I'm not sitting, I'm standing. That's why you see me fidgeting a little bit and all that sort of stuff. If being able to stand for a couple hours is a requirement for becoming president, well, I wasn't born in America, otherwise I'd volunteer. Hell, I can spend 4 years doing not a damn thing and I'd do much better than Biden. Okay? Anyhow, with that, I'm going to wrap up. Please vote. Even if you live in a blue state, make it a Trump wave. Trump personally is often an unappealing character, but look at the policies. And if you want the best example of why we need Trump and why Trump is a very imperfect messenger for the conservative libertarian message, but he's the best one we've got. Trump has one of the most important things a president needs, and that is courage. Look at the last couple of executive orders. The most obvious one is that he basically said that the US government is not going to teach critical race theory anymore. He banned it. It's a big deal. Critical race theory is basically application of Marxism to modern racism. That's basically what it is, and we should not be teaching it. That is a big deal. Trump is going after big tech in a way that actually makes sense, and I'm very mixed on whether we need to be regulating them or not, but the fact that they should not enjoy the protections of being a platform are absolutely certain, and if you want confirmation of why they should not be platforms and they should be treated as publishers, look at their treatment of the Hunter Biden laptop story. Right? That's all the evidence you really need. Okay? Trump is changing the rules for how federal employees can be hired and fired. Under Trump, we might have some measure of meritocracy come back. Right now, government employees can be hired, can't really be fired. It's basically like tenure. You sit there, do nothing, get paid from taxpayer money, and nothing useful happens. There are some different specific situations where somebody could be fired, like if they didn't go to their intersectionality lecture or something. Outside of that, they're extremely difficult to fire. Well, things are changing. Trump signed an executive order that will change how federal employees can be hired and fired. He might, if we give him 4 more years, he will not fully clean up shop, but I think we can get some significant changes happening, or at least that is my distinct hope. Election is coming. Please go vote. Take the time. Go to the polling booth. It is a huge privilege of being an American. I don't vote by mail. I'm actually going to go and vote. And you should too. Thank you for watching.